Folks, you're with Tassless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio, audio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of two-tier policing, but also to really look at how the political motivations, controls, aims, ambitions of protesters, how this determines how the police and the authorities will respond. Now, recently, a group of students on pro-Palestine protesters or mob, call them what you like, recently stormed a building that was being used for where federal politicians, quite senior politicians, were meeting. And now these sort of meetings are typically reasonably well. There's quite a few police there. The security guards. The building is, typically you can't get in through the door unless you've got some sort of ID. And I mean, these are federal politicians meeting. It's high security, but somehow the security was rather low on this occasion. I mean, surprisingly so. Anyone could come and go through the doors when they wanted. There was a few police there, but nothing like the normal amount of police you'd have at a gathering of this type. And particularly given it's in an area not far away from some fairly violent mob protests. So anyway, the mob descends on the building. The police seem to be strangely reluctant to do anything. They seem to just stand around. The security guards seem to be dumbfounded and bewildered, and they don't do anything. And before you know it, the student mob, has taken over the building. And they can't get in through the heavy doors where the politicians are meeting, apparently. But they control the building, and surprisingly, the police response is rather slow. Now, for something like this, when it was, say, the COVID lockdowns and COVID restrictions, the police brutally enforced it, arbitrarily arresting journalists. I mean, throwing to the ground and really, really being very aggressive, and rubber bullets and special military squads were in amongst the police to go and grab ringleaders or people they thought were key in key agitators in the protest of the lockdowns and so on. So, but nothing of the sort here. Very, very gentle response. As far as I can understand, none of these people were arrested. None of these people were. Now, look, let's be real here. These students were all using, text messages and I don't know, emails and Snapchats, whatever to communicate, so they can get a mob together that quickly and get over to somewhere. So the authorities are obviously monitoring these groups, and so they know it's happening. They could have had a very substantial police presence there straight away, but Instead, the authorities just watch this sort of thing happening. Now, politically, we're happy that this goes ahead for whatever the reason. So we don't want to stop it, and we don't want a public incident. Not like those people that were refusing the jab or the lockdown, and then we can beat those fuckers into the ground. But these people, we have to hands off. Now. Depending on who the protesters are and whether their cause is legitimate, misguided, misinformed, purely emotional, dealing with real issues. So if there are people protest about, say, against mass migration because of the effect it has on the cost of living, quality of life, access to government services, very real and legitimate concerns. If they protest, then the government swings into action. Heavy police presence, lockdown in areas, shut down, arbitrary arrest, processing, all this, and they really go in hard. Even the slightest resisting arrest is or the slightest, well, why are you arresting me? That's it. 3 cops will be on you, slapping you around. We're going to show you, you fucking fascist Nazi. So the media class will go into hyperdrive. Hitler was personally arrested because he's a Nazi carrying a swastika. So they'll go straight into full far-right Nazis are everywhere. But with these people, quite gentle. There's very gentle. Oh well, they just a little bit off the rails. They're just misinformed. That's all. Poor little things, and that's it. And that's done. Now they've committed, in my view, at least, quite a serious crime. And they didn't disperse when they were told. And who are the agitators and ringleaders who organised this? This is all known, but for some reason the authorities just don't seem to care. No, we'll let this one pass. And that was the end of it. So we're looking at there are certain protests. So we've got a situation where, as in with these Palestinian protests, where protesters can march up and down the main street of the city, saying, calling out for almost genocidal treatment of the Israeli citizens, and just a shoulder shrug from the authorities. Well, this has no place in our society, but and then that's it. Whereas, you get together to complain about mass migration. That's it. Far right Nazis, arrest those motherfuckers. Very, very different ways of dealing. Whereas one has very legitimate concerns and complaints, and the other may be very emotional, maybe misinformed, maybe it's misguided. But one is calling for law breaking on a mass scale, whereas the former is saying government policy is misguided and it's hurting us. We're citizens, and these policies are hurting us financially and so on, and we'd like them to stop. Yet the people with legitimate concerns are branded as Nazis, whereas the people calling for genocide of the population of Israel, they're just misguided kids. Who cares? But it just illustrates the two-tier policing. It also illustrates just how much resources the authorities are. So really, it's down to this: if you oppose the globalist project, which is the imposition of ideological government, which includes the mass migration, all that sort of stuff. If you oppose that, then you're far right fascist Nazi. Whereas if you advocate for the eradication of the Israeli state, you're just some misguided kid. I mean, for goodness sakes, is that where we're at these days? You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.